Nick is back. Bottom of the ninth. Reds trail by 1. I think they got a chance. I don't know how big of a chance they got, but they definitely have one. The offense has still been relatively stagnant outside of one guy. And Nick, hopefully your not only was your day off great, but your day-to-day was great, and hopefully your night ends up being fantastic. That's my goal. That's my hope.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't kept track of all the days off, but I think I've taken about like 5 off. And we had the walk-off last night. We had a Nick Senzel walk-off earlier in the year.
Really?
We had Hunter Green, 6 no-hit innings. So I don't know, man.
Better be careful.
I'm getting a little nervous here.
Start pushing me out the door. Start pushing me out the door. Oh, listen, Robert. If Tyler Stevenson walks it off, I will. I'll sign. What do they call those NDAs? The non-disclosure, where you just you basically some hush money. A walk-off for Tyler Stevenson would be like an NDA of 2 weeks for me. I wouldn't talk about him for 2 weeks. Marty walk-off would be wild. Banana
Blue Jays
land.
Closer is just coming back off the IL. He's only had, I think, couple games back, so hopefully he's a little
rusty. Starts hitting guys in the back.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt anybody. We don't want him to hurt anybody, but we maybe just hit a few guys in the back.
Yeah.
Kevin Kiermaier.
All right, Joey, let's do it.
Joseph Votto. I mean, that's a great camera angle, Bally. I love that.
All right, we'll take that. We'll take it. Chat, we need some likes.
Yeah.
We need some likes.
Kirby knows what's going on.
All right. Here we go, Joey. I need to close this game day because it's like 2 pitches ahead of me.
The game day's 2 pitches ahead of you. You're like, and you don't change what you got. You're fine. You're like maybe like literally 0.3 of a second ahead of me.
Yeah, I'm like in that spot where I can't. If I pause it, I'm going to be behind.
Correct. Yeah, don't mess with it. We're good. We're good. I'll tell you what would be absolute. If I was a Blue Jay fan, I would be more than pissed if they walked Joey Votto right here. I mean, with all due respect to Joey Votto, of course. I mean, golly, that's terrible.
Hopkins
is
coming in here.
So bad. They're gonna pinch run for Votto.
Marty.
What?
I mean, he's fast.
Come on. Nah. Don't do it. Don't do it, Nick. This is your chance, Nick. This is your chance to redeem yourself for all the people that think you don't ever say anything bad about somebody. What the kid show? Come on, man. Come on, man.
I guess they wanted to. I mean, I just assumed they wanted to ease him in. They didn't want to throw him into that spot.
Yeah,
I would have liked. I would have liked him probably in that spot over Ramos. Although Ramos did crush lefties.
Hopefully, CS just hits one over the fence. And we don't have to worry about it. 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
What just happened?
Must have done make some noise, and everyone stood up.
It's almost like there was a pitch or something like that, a violation. Come
Get
on,
down.
CS. Get down.
No, I gotta.
Nice. All right, I'm with you. You're fine. You're fine. You're, like I said, split second ahead of me. I'll take it. Come on now. Come on. We're not double stealing. That's a ridiculous take, Douglas. Come on, Douglas, in the chat.
Can Tyler Stevenson bunt?
I'd pinch hit for him. I'd melee pinch hit for him straight up. Although, who said it in the chat? Someone said it in the chat.
Please.
I forget.
God.
Man, my brain's just not great right now.
I'm so scared to
whoever
watch
said
this.
whoever said that I can't say anything. I said I wouldn't say anything for 2 weeks if he gets a big hit, but that's not going to happen. Roll over, double play. Not trying to be negative. All right, I'll change. I
didn't even want to put it out there.
I'm not trying to. Actually, putting it out there, I think is a good thing. I really do.
Oh, okay. All right.
I do think that. It's like the reverse jinx. I mean, he can't roll over that many balls in a row, can he? Oh, as a catcher, he's not getting the benefit of the doubt. Come on.
Make some noise. Make noise.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, make noise. Wow, man. Whatever company that is that's been robbing them for years. Golly. Quit throwing good pitches, man.
Come on. Tyler doesn't deserve this.
Come on.
Show some mercy.
We're not handicapping the handicap, man. Come on. This is ridiculous. Can't be throwing darts like that. Sliders. Come on here.
Worth noting, CES has some sneaky speed. Worth noting.
Boy, just a swinging bunt would be amazing. Oh, gosh. Get back to the bags. Get back to the bags. Golly, just can't you get lucky? I mean, just get lucky one time. One time, accidentally hit a baseball hard. I know everyone in the is gonna be like, oh, he got a hit. He hit a seeing eye ground ball through the infield.
Right,
if it was a half a foot to the right, it'd have been another double play.
Be hero.
Henry Ramos. I got to be honest with you, man. I'll save it for the show.
Henry saved me.
Golly, dude. Is he safe or is he out?
No,
is he safe or is he out?
He's safe.
Are you sure about that?
He's safe.
Are you sure about that?
Wow, he got a great jump.
Oh, the third baseman was over, too. I thought it was going to be one of those lucky scoop the ball and then tag him right on the hand at the same time.
He's like trying to shove him off. What on earth?
See? Scoop. Didn't touch his. I thought there was a small chance where he had his hand. You should challenge it, but he's safe.
They should challenge it, but these challenges are the worst thing in the entire sport. And I say this when it's not even the Reds. This is awful that you can challenge these type of plays.
He's safe,
stupid.
Nick, he's safe.
I know, but the fact that we have to waste our time on this garbage is awful.
Well, let's let their guy stand out there in the middle of the mound and think about the fact that these guys got second and third with one out.
That's fair. That's fair.
They
noted slugger Henry Ramos up.
Hey, come on, Nick. Come on, Nick.
Hey, I'm a Henry guy. I'm a Henry guy. I'm a Henry guy.
We do need some likes. Ricky Logan Jr.'s letting them know.
That stands. Hell yeah, no LV.
Easy stands. That's an easy call. Why didn't they just say confirmed? Let's really put our kahunas out there. You know what I'm saying? Let's really let the people know what it was. It was confirmed.
I think they just said, "Hey, call stands. That was a stupid challenge. We're not wasting our time."
Come on,
move along.
I mean, that's the facts.
Go home.
All right, Henfield's in. We're going on contact. Going on a contact play. You got to go on the ground no matter what. You got to go on the ground no matter what. Oh, my gosh. I just want to swing. Lee, the Reds have had so many chances. CES needs to be careful at second. Can't get too far here. Henry fucking Ramos has come up twice in a fucking baseball game in a pennant race. It's disgusting. Let's be honest about it.
I mean, swung at 2 pitches, not even close.
Stuart Fairchild, save the day for your boy. Yeah. Let's do a show. What a disgusting mess that was. Absolutely Disgusting.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the Laurel Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Reds win! Reds win! Line to right field. Genius, the first run ever. With 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Does it have a chance? The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
All right, welcome into Chatterbox Reds, a losing edition against the Toronto Blue Jays, 4-3. Had every chance in the world. Every chance in the world. I don't know, Nick, what to say outside the fact that these are the days that I worry about myself during having to do shows like this right now after watching that. There's some positive things to take away from tonight, but overall, just a little disappointing, I guess, is the term to use, because it felt like the Blue Jays gave us a chance. They were asking us to take that. They were asking us to steal another one.
Yeah, I mean, left the bases loaded in the 7th, runners on second, third, 1 out in the 9th. I mean, you can't have 2 better chances than that late in this game. And yeah, tough one. Thank God they won last night. That's how you kind of, I guess, have to stomach some of these losses. Thank God they won last night.
Yeah, that's why the one last night is so big, because you stole the game. That's how I felt about it. It's like if you'd have told me before this series started how many games they're going to win, I'd have said probably 1 based off the pitching matchups. Would have never guessed in a million years. Yesterday would have went the way it did, and today, to be honest with you, was an opportunity to take another one. And the fact of the matter is, and again, I'm trying not to overreact. Okay, I'm doing my best, but nothing is more infuriating than having to watch Henry Ramos, Stuart Fairchild, and Tyler Stevenson come up in big spots 2 different times in this game and have absolutely nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it. Henry Ramos, again, with all due respect to him, we gotta have somebody coming up to the plate that's a little bit better than Henry Ramos 2 different times, and not in one time he gets sent up there because we're pinch hitting for Benson, which I know is going to probably be a hot topic of conversation from the chat, certainly, and it's going to be a topic of conversation from many people in general about, when is it too early to start pinch hitting for guys? Because I'm telling you, the one thing that I would say about the splits and all of that is this lineup is paper thin, Nick. And I tell you what, that's why Marty got called up. If we're going to get to the bottom of this, Marty got called up because I don't think it's a situation where they're like, hey, let's see what Marty can do at the big league level. I think Nick Krall was like, and maybe it was David Bell, I don't know who it was, but they were like, we need this kid up here because we need some help. This lineup needs some help. So we'll get into it. I don't want to run through a rant right off the top of the rip. I'm more than pissed off right now. More than pissed off. Good God. I mean, it's one thing, Nick, it's one thing to get out, okay? I can live with getting out. It's another thing to have an absolute piss poor at bat after piss poor at bat after piss poor at bat. I mean, if you suck, that's one thing. But these guys make it look even more than sucking. You don't swing at a pitch in the zone one time in your entire at bat when you got a guy on second and third. Hell, they handicapped it for you. You had a guy on first and second. The hell, they double stole. I'm going to shut the hell up. We need to do a box score recap, okay? Because that's how this show goes. You do the box score recap, and it's going to give me at least a minute and a half, hopefully, to cool off.
All right, 0-0 game going into the fourth inning. Fourth inning, there was a lot of action going. Top of the fourth, Williamson retired the first two batters, but then he allowed a single walk, single, all with 2 outs. Quickly 3-0 Toronto. But in the bottom of the fourth, the Reds responded. TJ Friedl hit a solo home run, number 11 on the season, to right field. That made it a 3-1 game. Then Matt McLain walked. Then Elly De La Cruz hit a ball off the right field wall. McLain got an aggressive send home. The Jays missed the cutoff man, and the backup cutoff man ball rolled all the way into foul territory down the third base line, and Elly came roaring all the way around the bases to tie the game at 3. He was scored a triple and an air, but still an incredible feat from Elly. The wild thing is Elly wasn't even fully sprinting out of the box because obviously Matt McLain was in front of him. Top of the fifth, Brandon Williamson gave up a solo home run to David Schneider, just his third home run of the year, just snuck over the left field wall, and that made it 4-3 Toronto, and that would end up being the final score. Fernando Cruz, Alex Young, and Derek Law all did their job, put up zeros, but the Reds offense, they stranded the bases loaded in the 7th inning, and then the Reds had runners on second and third with 1 out in the 9th, but couldn't get the job done. Reds fall 4-3, Reds 63-60 on the year. A lot of wild card games and whatnot in action. Reds will probably be, at worst, a half game out of playoff spot at the end of the day.
Yeah. I wish there was an easy fix. I'm sure the Reds do too. It's nice to hear that Jake Fraley is going to try to tough it out, but I'm also going to say this before we start. You know, I hope Jake Fraley's making the best decision for himself and also for the Reds. Sometimes you can think that you're being an unselfish player, and sometimes you can think that you're being a team guy by pushing through and playing through an injury. But if you're really hurt and you can't produce at the level that you were producing at before you come up and before you start playing again, then realistically, what are you doing? You're not really helping anybody. I hope that's not the case for Jake Fraley, but I'm not overly confident in that either. Maybe Marty will come up here and be a lightning rod and it'll all fix, but I don't know. We go down the lineup, and it's all the young guys that I feel confident in. It's crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know what's funny, though? It's like, if you told us that before the year started, we can always play that game. We can play that game every night when we make ourselves feel better. I guess I would have taken it, but Tyler Stevenson, man, I just don't understand. Joey Votto, he's got to be better. I'll say it again. Joey Votto's got to be better, man. He's playing first base. First base is a position that you need production on the offensive side of the ball. This isn't just like, you know, oh, it's Henry Ramos and Stuart Fairchild. Those guys suck. That's why we can't score runs. We can't score runs because we don't have any consistency in this lineup. I don't know. What's your overall take on the offense? Elly was obviously fantastic tonight. That's the only reason they even stood somewhat of a chance. But in general, Spencer Steer's got to play better. I don't know where we're at. I don't know what to say other than just the fact of the matter is that some of these guys have been absent for quite some time. They're tardy.
Yeah, I mean, Noel Marte is going to at least move some of the lineup around. Like, obviously, I would assume the next time the Reds play a right-handed pitcher and there's no one getting a day off, Stuart Fairchild comes out of the lineup. They move players around. Noel Marte's in the lineup. Now, it's probably not really very fair to expect Noel Marte to come up and hit the ground running like everyone else. Marte didn't have as good of numbers as McLain, as Elly, as CES in the minor leagues. This is a guy with a ton of promise. This is a guy that I thought coming into the year, I think has a higher ceiling than Matt McLain, although every day I watch Matt McLain, I kind of go, that might be a really bad take on my part. So, I mean, look, he gives you a chance. Like, he's definitely a player that's ridiculously talented. He's definitely a player that could come up and, kind of catch lightning in a bottle and at least maybe, provide you some real production for a couple weeks. But I mean, as you said, I mean, there's just, Jake Fraley is huge against right-handed pitchers. He's the best hitter on this team against right-handed pitching, and it's awesome that he's gonna try to play through it. I got some more notes on that, so I don't want to. We'll get into that at the end of the show. But man, you have to hope he can come back, and that at least kind of gets some players out of some spots and makes it a little bit longer of a lineup. But it's still a lineup that's gonna have some holes in it, no matter what. And you got to hope that the pitching that's coming back and the guy that's starting tomorrow can kind of fix some of that.
Yeah, but he's not going to fix it. That's what sucks. That's what sucks. And again, I'm not trying to get too crazy, overly pessimistic on this show and negative, but I mean, let's face it. I'll tell you what. If you want to be honest with yourself, you say a little prayer tonight and thank God that Nick Krall didn't trade anybody. He didn't trade anybody on this team to go get a starting pitcher. Could you imagine if we shipped off Cam Collier and then maybe Cam Collier never ends up being a guy, or Jorge or Hector Rodriguez or Sal Stewart or any of these guys? Could you? And again, you might sit here and make fun of those guys, like, oh yeah, they're in Double-A. Who cares? Blah blah blah. Who cares? Well, I mean, shit. You wanted to? I'll show you who cares. T.J. Friedel, Matt McLean, Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, Noelvi Marte. We'll see how he goes. Christian Encarnacion Strand, Will Benson. That's what we feel good about. That's what we feel good about. I look at this lineup right now. Joey Votto, Tyler Stevenson. When those guys come up to play right now, I got to be honest with you. Automatic out. Like the 10-year-old that comes up in Little League that's batting ninth. Now, that's a little harsh. Maybe that's a little harsh. But that's how I feel. That's how I feel. And again, Joey Votto will have a statue outside of Great American Ballpark. And I would argue maybe we shouldn't be relying on Joey Votto at all, quite frankly, at the age of almost 40. I seen Randy in the chat earlier and said, oh, well, he got on base. Yeah, he got on base. Nick Kirby would have gotten on base. No offense, Nick. Nick Kirby would have gotten on base. With those pitches that he threw to Joey Votto at the end of the game, Nick Kirby would have got on base.
Let's be fair. Nick Kirby would have crapped his pants standing in with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball.
That's fine. Nick, if you wouldn't have picked your bat off the shoulders, you'd have gotten on base. He threw 4 pitches outside the zone by a country mile. None of them were even close. It wasn't even like it was a good at bat. Now again, I'm not trying. This is Trey saying, Joey Votto. I'll go upstairs right now if you need me to and go get my Joey Votto stand shirt. I love Joey Votto, but there's a real reason as to why this team struggles. We got Henry Ramos, Stuart Fairchild, Tyler Stevenson. Those 3 guys coming up time and time again. They came up 2 different times during this baseball game with a huge opportunity to win. And we had, again, I'll say it out loud for everybody, we had Henry Ramos, Tyler Stevenson, and Stuart Fairchild. That's who we ran up to the plate. For a guy that sat up here and screamed and yelled about how I was so tired of hearing about Jonathan India, I'll say it out loud. We can't go that much longer without Jonathan India and Jake Fraley outside this lineup and think that this team's going to make the postseason. It's just not going to happen. And you can sit here and say that I'm overreacting. Maybe I am. I'm a little pissed off because I just had to watch the most piss-poor at-bats I've ever seen in my life, the last 2 innings with an opportunity to win the game. And I mean they were piss-poor. Absolutely no clue at the plate. Henry Ramos, absolutely no clue. The bright lights were way too bright for Henry. Swinging at pitches. I mean, what the hell was he even? I mean, they weren't even close. But anyways, I digress. I guess I get frustrated because everyone's like, oh well, we got Hunter Green coming back and we got Nick Lodolo coming back. Unless they pick up a baseball bat and they hit. I mean, it's irrelevant, Nick. It is absolutely irrelevant.
But they're going to give you chances to win some of these lower scoring games, right? I mean,
are they?
Yeah,
sure?
I would think so. I mean, more so than Luke Weaver or some of the other guys you might throw out there.
That's the only one you got for me. I think that's more of an ode to the starting pitching, Nick, than anything. I'm not trying to say that you're wrong. I'm just saying starting pitching's been great. It's gave us every chance in the world to win.
But again, okay, so when you get into, these next 2 weeks are brutal. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. This is almost do or die time. You're going to face really good pitching the next 3 series. You're going to face some pretty good lineups as well. Now, when you get into September, you're going to have your lineup facing a lot lesser pitchers, and you're going to have your pitchers facing lesser lineups. So that's why I still think, there's room for some confidence in September. But if you're looking at this lineup and thinking, yeah, this lineup's for, man, this is our shot to win a World Series, like that's kind of ludicrous right now. Could they get hot? Sure, but this really is not the time for the Reds. And it's hard to say that when you're right in the middle of a playoff race, but it's really not the time for the Reds. There's just not enough depth at the major league level right now, and not enough depth that could be fixed at a trade deadline or off the waiver wire or whatever else. But they still got a chance because of the schedule in September. They're still going to have a chance. I think it's still going to be fun. I think it probably will still come down towards at least the last couple weeks of the season. And that's pretty exciting for me, at least.
I'm not trying to downplay what this season has been and what the opportunity that these young guys have provided us to experience. It's been unbelievable. However, the thing that's most disappointing is that the things that you thought you had, you don't have. I don't know how long we're going to hold on to Tyler Stevenson for. I really don't. I mean, it reminds me of Eugenio Suarez a few years ago, where it's like, you know what the line of thinking is, and I'm not saying it's maybe a bad line of thinking, but sometimes I guess I am saying it's a bad line of thinking. I think sometimes after 5 months, you are who you are. You are who you are, especially if you haven't played like 10 years in the big leagues. Everybody keeps telling me how great the Padres are. Yeah, they're great. They suck. Okay, let me say it again. The Padres suck. You know why I know they suck? Because they're like 6 games below 500. It's August 19th. We're at a position now where we're 2 weeks late in telling somebody that we're going to be somewhere, and we're still not there. At some point, maybe they'll show up, but I'm not expecting them to show up. I don't think Tyler Stephenson's going to show up. I'd like to see Luke Maile play every day. Just play every day. And you know what? If Luke Maile sucks, then he sucks. I apologize in advance. But I'm so tired of seeing just first pitch, roll over to shortstop ground balls, weakly hit. And you know what? You can say, well, you got a hit tonight. Yeah, you got a hit. You got a CNI ground ball through the left side. If it was a half a foot to the right, it would have been another double play. But that's here nor there. And I know that's just one guy, and I'm all pissed off. But I just, again, can't believe we're in a position where the pitching staff has done what they've done, and we've not taken advantage of it. I guess that's where I'm most frustrated. Because if you'd have told me, Nick, that the pitching staff was going to throw this well since the All-Star break, I would have believed we were winning the division. I would have thought we were winning the division by multiple games. Instead, we're not. So that's here nor there. But your overall thoughts, I guess, if you want to finish this up with the offense, if anything, and then we'll get into, obviously, Brandon Williamson, because I got something to say about him.
Yeah, I would like to see more Luke Maile. I mean, I think you got to be careful you don't run this guy into the ground. You know, as a guy that hasn't played a lot of full 162-game seasons, he's never been an everyday starting catcher. You don't want to wear him down and then have 2 useless catchers, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I do think that he should be number 1 on your depth chart. I think there's no really question or debate about that right now, based on what we've seen. But yeah, just you have to hope Noelvi Marty kind of catch lightning in a bottle, can kind of make this lineup a little bit longer. Yeah, be prepared. There's going to be a lineup everyone's going to hate tomorrow.
I know, of course. In fact, there's a super chat. Who's your daddy's getting us ready for it? He says, excited to see the lineup from Fairchild Mashes Lefties.
Can we talk a little bit about that?
Tomorrow, Fairchild Mashes Lefties. Excited to see the lineup tomorrow, Fairchild Mashes Lefties. Go ahead, Nick. Yeah.
Right or wrong, can we stop like every single time that there's a late game matchup, make it life or death if it's the right call or wrong call? Like, these matchups are only going to succeed 35% of the time, right? So I just, man, that's what's just like so frustrating to watch and react to, is you're facing these teams' best pitchers at the end of the game. Like, these aren't really set up for success. They're going to fail more often than not. Either way, if Will Benson's hits, if Will Benson is as great as everyone thinks he can be against left-handed pitching, he's going to succeed 30 to 35% of the time. If Henry Ramos is as good as as the numbers suggest he might be, he's going to succeed 30 to 35% of the time. So these single individual results, it's a terrible way to evaluate this on a night-to-night basis.
I understand that logic. I would just explain to you exactly what the frustrating part is, Nick, in a nutshell. I'm going to give you an analogy of all analogies here. Okay, if you're a Seattle Seahawk fan, okay, and you're playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl, do you think that you could go to bed at night feeling like, you know what, it is what it is, we got beat? If you hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch 3 times in a row and you get stuffed at the goal line 3 times in a row because you got beat with what arguably be with somebody that you at least believe in, somebody that you think you might actually see within a next year? That's part of it. You want to go to bed tonight? I'd rather see Will Benson strike out personally than have to watch Henry Ramos. And no offense to Henry, he came up here and he provided maybe a little bit of a spark earlier this year, right? But I think that's where the frustration comes from some of this fan base, is that if we're going to make that move, let's make the move make 100% sense then. If we're going to actually pinch hit a guy later in the game, let's make sure that it is somebody that we know for sure is going to be a better option. I'm not saying Henry Ramos is not a – let me say this again. I'm not saying Henry Ramos isn't a little bit better option than Benson, but do you think he's a significant better option?
I don't know. Do you want the stats or not?
Yeah, no, I do. I genuinely do.
I'm sick of bringing the stats because they just get crushed. All right.
No, I think it's fair.
Let's look at what both players did at AAA this year. Is that a pretty fair way to evaluate Will Benson and Henry Ramos? Because that's our biggest sample. All right. Ramos hit .371 with an OPS over 1,000 against left-handed pitching at AAA. Will Benson hit .133 with a .666 OPS against left-handed pitching. Will Benson is 4 for 27 in his big league career against left-handed pitching. So again, if you want to find out in the middle of a pennant race, I'm honestly at this point, go ahead, go for it. I'm sick of arguing this every night because there's literally facts and logic that clearly say that they should be the better option.
So what's
but
Henry?
No one wants to
what's
hear
Henry
the stats
Ramos?
Because it doesn't.
No, no. Okay, let's play this. I'm going to be as realistic as I can about what you just said, and I'm going to give you a very fair thought back. I think I'm giving a fair thought, and God, honest truth, Nick, if you don't think it's a fair thought, I want you to yell right back at the screen at me, and we'll figure this out. How much of a sample size is it until we think these numbers are actually fair? I don't know how many at-bats you're using as your leverage right now. I'd also say that Will Benson earlier this year, he also, if you're going to use AAA stats as a measurement and say it's a full thing, he's not the same player. He's not the same player. He went down to AAA. He struggled in AAA mightily for weeks. Finally got hot, came back to the big leagues. When he got back to the big leagues, he's been a completely different player. So if we're going to use splits, I'd like to know what his splits are since he got back to the big leagues. And you know what? You could say to me, hey, the splits still stink. Then I come back to you and I say, okay, well, that's fine. How many at-bats are we talking? Because you know what I would never argue you about? I would never tell you that Jake Fraley, based off of what I've already seen, should not get pinch hit for, and Joey Votto should not get pinch hit for. Will Benson is a guy that again, when I watch his at-bats, I know for a fact, like it or not, Henry Ramos, the pitches he swung at tonight, I would be shocked. In fact, I would be willing to bet the ranch he doesn't swing at those pitches tonight. Now, again, I'm not downplaying the logic. I'm all ears to this. I think what you bring to the table is very fair and very logical. I'm just asking the question of what is the actual sample size, and is that a realistic enough of a sample size, Nick, in your opinion, to make a decision that you think you have such a huge advantage that early in the game when you know that spot probably might come up again to pinch hit for him in that spot?
Well, I would rather my manager typically be aggressive in like the 7th inning when the game's on the line, because you're facing a lesser pitcher at that point. When did Ramos come up the first? When was Ramos pinch hit for? What was the? I mean, you're trailing in the game, so you need a run, right? Ramos came up. There's 2 outs. I mean, so that's it. or there was one out. He almost grounded it into a double play.
Yeah, he did ground
but
into
again,
double
I
play,
mean,
and shout out Bouchette for botching that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the 5th, I think it's a totally different conversation. Which, hey, I might have 2 more shots for Benson, but am I really going to risk 1 shot? Maybe that might be in the 9th. I don't know. I don't think Henry Ramos is the answer. That's what I want to make clear here. I don't think Henry Ramos is the answer. I just think that Will Benson also isn't the answer.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of data. I mean, Will Benson hasn't hit lefties at every stop in the minors, and he hit righties. So again, that's where I just get so confused is if guys haven't hit lefties in the minors, why the hell are they going to hit lefties in the majors?
Yeah. I get the law. I get the theory behind it all, and I don't think anyone is. Listen, there's a couple comments here that I wanted to defend analytics a little bit. Some people said, what was the comment says? The reason this team hasn't won is because of analytics. It's not. Listen, this team has won, first of all. Second of all, I would argue that some of the analytical data that you're able to use to find out what metrics are reasonable to understand, you can't be one way or the other. Okay, that's all I'm getting at. I see some comments in here about anti-analytics as I guess the guy that slides a little bit more towards the eye test instead of analytics. I'm here to tell you, I don't think this is like, oh my gosh, you can't automatically use, you can't use analytics at all, ever. Of course you do. Of course you do. I guess I'm just in a position where if I'm sitting in that dugout tonight, I don't know. It's hard for me to think and imagine in a world where, again, a guy as young as Will Benson and is seeing the ball as well as he's been seeing the ball isn't at least given the opportunity for one more at bat instead of Ramos. Now, again, to your point, Nick, Henry Ramos, even if he's the better option, right? Out of 1,000 at bats, he's only going to get 40 more hits, right? Maybe 50 more hits than Will Benson would in that spot. So just because it was the right move doesn't mean it's going to automatically work, is what you've been arguing, and that's more than fair. That's more than fair.
And let's also not forget, Will Benson was pinch hit for on Sunday, and Stuart Fairchild hit a game-tying double against a lefty. So, like, this has worked in the recent, and that was a huge win for the Reds. They were trailing in the game, and you went to your better matchup, and it won the game then. So, I don't know. I don't know about Henry Ramos,
fair.
though. I'm not going to sit here and be like,
that's where I think people are pissed.
I love Henry Ramos. I'm a Henry Ramos guy. That was an ugly at bat in the 9th inning. But the good thing is Marte should make some of these moves a little bit less frequent, because the next time it's Stuart Fairchild pinch hitting for Will Benson, which I know everyone hates Stuart Fairchild too. I have no idea why. He's had a really nice year and helped this team a lot, but at least it's Fairchild over Ramos, which I think I definitely feel much more comfortable defending Stuart Fairchild against lefties than Henry Ramos against lefties.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to be honest with ourselves, chat, and we want to be realistic with where we're at, what Nick said earlier in the show is actually the facts. That's the truth. This team's early. They're young. They're ahead of schedule, and the depth on this team sucks. The depth on this team is absolutely atrocious. It is. It's god awful. I mean, let's think through this for just a second here, okay? Like, if we're gonna be honest with ourselves, a lot of people in the chat and a lot of people in Reds fandom, they want to hate on guys like Stuart Fairchild, right? Like, oh, I hate Stuart Fairchild. He sucks. You know, Kevin Newman sucks. He sucks. Senzel sucks. He sucks. Tyler Stevenson sucks. All these guys. Here's the thing, though. If we played, and I say we, if the Reds were really good, right? Let's fast forward in 2 years. A lot of these guys probably aren't even on the team, or a guy like Stuart Fairchild is a defensive replacement at best in the late innings, and he gives guys an off day every so often. So it's almost like the actual real problem is we don't have enough guys that play well enough and don't have drastic splits one way or the other to where David Bell doesn't have to do this game, doesn't have to play this game. I mean, that's the real root of somewhat of the problem here. So, I mean, I know we might not want to admit that, Nick, but that's where we're at. This team's young, and they're probably not the team that we all wish they were. All right.
And they're not really meant to withstand Fraley and India out right now. That's just too much right now with the depth. But you have to hope they can find a way.
Yeah. Brad said all those guys do suck. That's my point. If we were a good baseball team, I don't think we're talking about those guys on a nightly basis. Do you think if those guys got shipped to Tampa Bay, do you think they'd be talking about them in Tampa Bay? If they got shipped to Los Angeles, do you think they'd be talking about them in Los Angeles? Shipped to Baltimore? No, they wouldn't be playing. So that just shows you and tells you a little bit of what you need to know about where we're at in the depth of this franchise right now. All right, Brandon Williamson's a guy that I want to discuss here for at least a short period of time. I think at this point, I know the other day I heard somebody say out loud, he's going to be the odd man out next spring training, this, that, and the other. I'm telling you, man, Brandon Williamson is starting to feel himself. He's starting to, you know what he reminds me of? You know, I'm a Georgia fan. And again, this is maybe a little too high of praise for Brandon Williamson. He's reminding me a little bit of like Stetson Bennett a little bit. And I know that's a bad analogy for some people, but that's what he reminds me of. He reminds me of a guy that was never supposed to be good. He gets thrown in the mix and he starts performing. And then people are like, wait a minute, is he good or is he not good? And then he might have one bad outing, and then everybody's right back off the train. Oh, Brandon Williamson sucks, right? He throws in the rain, and next thing you know, he's tweeting at old Charlie, and everybody's like, oh, this guy, he's bad. He should be back in AAA. And the next thing you know, he just keeps on performing. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think Brandon Williamson 100% is not going to be in the rotation next year. I think that's crazy. That's ludicrous to say. This guy's done nothing but get better and better and better every start. He really has. Now, I know you might say his line tonight wasn't great, but in general, Brandon Williamson has been fantastic.
I think he was good tonight. I mean, I think that the line might be a little bit deceiving. The 5 2/3 inning, 9 hits. He only allowed 5 hard hit balls. And the thing that just sticks out to me when I look at his stat line that continues to just be so impressive with our expectations coming in: 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. I mean, that to me, just I can't believe he continues to do this. Yeah, I mean, he absolutely deserves a chance as a starter. Assuming everyone's healthy, it's going to be crowded, which, you know, I said a couple shows ago, that's a great problem to have. That's the problem that every good team has, is they have to either move 1 or 2 of their starters to the bullpen, which, oh my gosh, wow, we have starting caliber pitchers in relief roles. That'll make our bullpen better, or we move them down as AAA depth. I don't know where Williamson falls in that.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're just being honest, I mean, we feel it's hard to see him being ahead of Green, Lodolo, Abbott, or Ashcraft. So that's one spot. And then Connor Phillips is probably more talented than Williamson, although Connor Phillips, we'll talk about him in a minute, had another rough start tonight, and I think you see why he's not up here. But yeah, I mean, he definitely. I feel like I'm missing someone else too. Who else am I missing? That's in the rotation conversation. Well, we also think I think they should bring in a veteran starter as well. And I think if they bring in a veteran starter next year, Williamson would be the 6th guy. But almost every year, one of your starting pitchers just doesn't make it to the opening day roster. So he, by default, probably finds a way to get in.
I mean, that's something that we can worry about for another day. But I guess my point is when people just automatically assume that he's not going to make the rotation because they're just like, oh, well, we got X. I'm like, well, wait a minute here. I mean, this guy, you could say is thrown just as good as, you know, some of these 3 and 4 guys we're talking about here. He's left-handed. That's a plus. Would I be shocked if he wasn't in the rotation next year? Of course I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm just saying he looks like he's getting better, and there's more and more confidence that's evolving here. And the scariest thing that can happen for some guys is that when they actually believe that they belong somewhere, the growth that they're able to take is massive, right? The mental hurdle that some guys can get over and get so much better is because of all mental. Like I've said before, again, harking back to Tyler Stevenson a little bit, I think some of that is just a physical ability. I don't think you can get a lot better. When you're 26 years old, it's harder to get better at baseball from a physical standpoint. you are who you are. You can only swing and go to the cage and long toss and do all those things so many times, and it is what you are. It's your God-given ability, and that's that. But mentally, if you're able to kind of overcome some kind of demon, if you want to call it that, then at that point you become a whole new level guy. Boyle is a guy that comes to mind for that, right? Like he's a guy that has all the talent in the world, Nick, and I know he's not in the organization anymore, but my point is like if he were to get over this mental hurdle, you could argue he could make the biggest leap of anybody. But the mental side of things is sometimes the flakiest thing that there is. So I think Brandon Williamson, I guess what I'm getting at, has a mental switch that's happened at some point during this year when he went from thinking, will I ever make the big leagues? Will I ever make the big leagues? To I made the big leagues, and oh my gosh, I think I belong here. I think I can actually get guys out at this level, and I think he's there. And it wouldn't shock me if he keeps getting better and better and better because of that. So we'll see where it goes. But I definitely believe in Brandon Williamson. I think that he's a guy that can get outs, and if worst case scenario, I guess if he ends up being a middle reliever, then that's not the worst thing that this team's ever had to do. And or depth at the starting pitching position because we've already realized we need that anyways. All right, I don't know if you want to do anything. The bullpen's excellent as always. Might as well just can we just get like a sound bite that just says the bullpen was awesome. The bullpen was awesome because that's just
they did it again.
They did it again. It seems like we gloss over them every day. I tried to give them a little bit of love on the show yesterday, but again, come in. They didn't give up any runs. I don't think, did they? No runs.
No hits again. No hits again. Second that they have not given up a hit to the Blue Jays. This cool. It was different guys tonight too. Fernando Cruz, Alex Young, Derek Law. How about Derek Law striking out 3 batters tonight?
Yeah. Derek Law got fired up a little bit tonight. Did you see that, chat? Did you see that? He did. He got fired up. I like that out of Derek Law. I don't think I've seen that kind of emotion out of Derek Law yet this year. So kudos to Derek Law. And the last thing I want to say is I know I was absolutely pissed off at the end of this game just because I had to see what I seen. But one thing I just seen was like, yeah, we could have made some this team. Well, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was mentioned in the chat that hey, at the deadline we knew this team was probably going to get ran down. They're young. We probably needed to go out and get some reinforcements. Here's the thing. You know what this reminds me of a little bit? I know since we're all in Cincinnati. It reminds me of the injuries that happened to the offensive line of the Bengals. At some point, you just put your hand up and you say, well, you can't do nothing about this. Like, you can't bank and expect India and Fraley to go down and be like, oh, we got to go and make sure that we have somebody ready for that. Well, everybody was yelling about starting pitching at the deadline. And now people, and I'm not saying I don't think there's that many realistic people, but now to sit here and think that they should have done something about hitting, I mean, what? Do you just want a whole new team? I mean, at some point, you are who you are. You got the team you got. You're either going to win or you're going to lose.
It is wild how it is just it's been like this pendulum just swinging back and forth because all offseason it was like, man, this team really needs some offense. And they went outside Will Myers. A lot of people like that. I like that. Didn't work out. But that was the thought all offseason. And then in the first month of the season, the offense was awful. Pitching was doing their part. It was like they still didn't get enough hitting. And then you call all these kids up, and then the pitching completely flounders. It's like, oh my gosh, we got a great lineup 1 through 9, but we have no one that can pitch. And now I think you're probably going to get to a point, knock on wood, that Hunter Green comes back tomorrow and he's effective. Nick Lodolo is able to get back up, and the pitching is going to be great. But now your lineup's just, man, you're really having to mix and match and try to squeeze every little piece you can out of it. It's just, it's a good reminder of how difficult it is over a 162 game season to continue to field a good team that has that depth, and a good reminder that what we feel right now probably not going to feel again in 2 weeks. It might swing back. We might be into the last week of September, and the lineup might be just all cooking. Everyone's hot, and some of these starters all wear down. That could happen too. So, yeah,
I'm with you. I mean, it's frustrating. That's the only way to say it. It's frustrating because you feel like this team, every time you think they have something they need to fix, they fix it, and then the other side of the house starts to fall apart a little bit. So, but again, as a reminder, this team's still in the thick of it. They stole a baseball game yesterday, which gave us the the ability to kind of give one away is not the right term I'd like to use. I don't think we gave one away tonight. I just think we let an opportunity slip away. I think there's a difference. All right, Marty called up. Nick, you've said this from the start. You said this when we first got onto like spaces before the year started. You said this during spring training. You said this during opening day. You said this basically anytime anybody would listen to you. The plan all along was Noelvi Marte was going to play third base. Ellie De La Cruz was going to play shortstop. Matt McClain was going to play second base. And lo and behold, here we go. It's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's exciting that all three of those guys progressed to this point. Now, will Noelvi Marte come up and hit the ground running? I have no idea. It is my best guess if Marte will come up and look great or Marte will come up and completely struggle, because I could really see it going either way with him. He's an incredibly talented player, but he has, when he's got promoted, kind of like Ellie De La Cruz, he's had some slow starts. He did it last year when he got traded. He started slow with Dayton, started slow down at Chattanooga. Now, a lot of that might have been the sticky ball, all that kind of stuff. And then Louisville actually kind of hit the ground running there. But nonetheless, I think it's great that we have all three. This is the future. I believe in these guys long term. How they're going to perform over the next 6 weeks, I don't know. But it's exciting to have that and get a glimpse into what the future really is, because these are the guys. And again, this will make everyone happy. The more of these guys you have up, less platoon spots you have.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to say is, like, and I know this, call me a loser, say it's a loser's mentality, but the fact that these guys are going to experience a little bit of a playoff kind of atmosphere, pressure, whatever you want to call it, pennant race together, whether it falls off the rails and they don't play well and they end up sputtering and don't make the postseason by a multitude of games, or they get hot or they play just well enough to get into the postseason, at least they're going to get this experience. At least we get to get a chance to see what we have going into the next year. And that's all we could have ever asked for before this year started, which I get it. Any of you don't care about that. Any of you are like, oh, well, expectations have changed, blah, blah, blah. I understand that logic, but at the same time, it's like, in order to build something special, you got to be somewhat realistic of what you're watching. I mean, you look at this lineup, I'd ask you, chat, if you look at this lineup, do you think for 1 second, when you read the names off there, that we should be like expecting for sure that this team's going to play well enough to get into the postseason? I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. It's kind of crazy talk. Could it happen? I think it could happen, Nick. But at the same time, it's amazing how mature it feels like a lot of these rookies are. I mean, we're basically, that's all we are. The whole damn lineup, like I said before, feels like it's just rookie-led. And I know people in the chat are mad at me about what I said about Votto, but, I mean, what did I say that was so bad about Votto? I think I'm just being honest. I love Joey Votto, but, like, I'll tell you this right now. If the Reds go out and they sign a first baseman next year and he produces the same way Joey Votto has, I'll tell you right now, the city of Cincinnati is going to be out for his ass. Kid show. But am I wrong, Nick? I mean, I'm not trying to tell you that you need to slander Joey, and I'm not trying to slander him. I'm just saying, like, in general terms, Joey Votto and Tyler Stevenson are the only two guys I would say right now that have been a little disappointing over the past 3 weeks and a month.
Yeah, if Votto could continue to have the power that he has, then yeah, I mean, he probably he's been productive overall. His overall numbers look good. I mean, his overall numbers, look fine, I guess, maybe is the better way of saying.
Yeah, I mean, what's good?
But again, like, so, you can cut it in different ways. If you cut it and you start at his start points of when he hit 2 home runs in a game, you can really make Joey Votto is a guy that you can make his numbers look really good this year. You make him look really bad. And that's why, honestly, I kind of have a difficult time figuring it out, because it's such a weird profile. But I mean, if you take it after just like his 5th game back, after he had the 2 home runs against the Braves and in the game that I call the second best moment in Cincinnati sports this year, the 12th straight win. So if you just take it from the day after that, coming in today, he had a 95 weighted runs created plus, and that's 165 plate appearances. So since that game, I mean, he has been a below average hitter. I don't know if this power can keep up. Do you have any idea if this power can keep up? I have no idea.
Well, of course, nobody really knows. I'm looking at everything from an all-star break and on standpoint. I'm looking at it like it's 2 different seasons. I think, Joey Votto got off to a great start. He also had one hell of a series in Milwaukee. And again, I know you can't cherry pick stats, and you can't be like, oh, we don't want to use the games he was hot, and then you could argue on the other side, we don't want to. You can't just use the games that he was hot. I don't know. I'm just saying in general terms, he's a first baseman, and I'd like my first baseman to be consistent enough to be able to produce offensively more so than what I feel like he's been. But you know what? That's part of it, and that's what I have to live with. Because at the end of the day, Joey Votto's deserved the opportunity to play. And I guess that's part of where I have this weird catch-22. You're in a playoff race. I don't know who plays in front of him. I'll be honest. It's not like there's a better option right now. So
yeah,
I guess I'm just complaining because I'm frustrated because I look at guys like Matt McClain and I think to myself, why can't we just have 8 more of them? So, which I know you can't, but I just want consistent players, man. I'm so tired of, I guess it's more or less a little blast from the past, but and I love Jay Bruce, but it's just like I'm so tired of having the Jay Bruce type players. I am. Like, yeah, you can be the offensive player of the month for 1 month, and then you go cold for 2 months, and at the end of the year, you're like, well, when you average it all out, Nick, it looks all right. And it's like, well, damn, shit, It's tough to watch for 2 months, and then 1 month it's unbelievable, which I don't know how you fix that, but that's how I feel about this Reds offense right now. It's like we got a bunch of guys that are streaky outside of maybe 2 guys in the lineup.
Yeah, that's the most important point here is that, like, even that 95 weighted runs created plus that I just talked about, Reds don't really have anyone else that against right-handed pitching is going to produce like that right now. And that's not a good, like, long-term solution. Like, you need your first base to be better than that. But right now, he's the best option. We just have to hope that the power can stay up. Because if the power can hang on, he can continue to be a productive player. It's just either the power has to stay up or the average has to just drastically climb. And I don't think I see the average drastically climbing based on what I've saw so far. But Votto deserves not even an ounce of criticism for what he's done this year. The fact that he's playing is a absolute miracle, and most guys wouldn't have come back. So I don't want this to ever feel like it's in any way criticism of Joey Votto, because he doesn't deserve a shred of it. It's just we're trying to say what's best for the Cincinnati Reds in a playoff race. Right now, Joey Votto is, but it's more by default than by what his actual production has been overall.
Right. I guess I'm trying to paint a picture as to why this offense is struggling. And I look at the lineup, and the first 2 names that come to mind right now over the past 3 weeks, Stevenson and Votto, and I don't know if that's fair or not, because that's just what my eyes are telling me. I mean, someone could call me out on chat and call me out on Twitter and say that you're wrong, Trace.
Ellie before
Ellie's been struggling.
Today.
Ellie's been struggling. But the only reason this is where I guess I just need to shut up, because I'm playing out both sides of my mouth a little bit. But it's just like the reason I give Ellie a pass is because those other 2 guys that I talked about, they can't steal bags. They're not elite defensive guys. They're not going to be able to just magically hit a ball off the wall and turn it into an inside the park home run. So I give Ellie a little bit of a credence. Like, I give him a little bit of a pass. And I understand one's 21 years old, the other one's 39. I should be realistic when I think through these things, so I understand that too. Marte, I don't know if we talked about him long enough, but I don't want to gloss over that.
That led me right into Marte. That's another factor of what makes Noelvi Marte valuable, is it's more than just hitting. You saw him steal third base in his first career time on the bases. I mean, the guts to do that and to do it and be successful. He got a great jump. So he's an athlete. He can steal some bases. I think eventually he's going to be a great defensive player at third base. Right now, he has had a lot of errors at AAA. He's got all the tools to be a plus defender at third base. But you're going to be able to see some of those other things that he can bring, more so than some of the other guys that the Reds have been putting into some of these spots. He has the potential to be a bona fide all-around player, which is just really exciting for the future. But I don't know. I guess we should probably talk about the way he was used tonight. I mean, I guess I understand. Like, let's paint the picture of why David Bell did this, and I'm assuming you would agree on this.
Yep.
David Bell and Bryce Spalding pointed it out really well. He was still in the game at like 10 p.m. on Friday night in Iowa, and I guess flew out here. So God only knows what time he got in, all that. I think it made sense not to put him in the starting lineup for all of those reasons. Obviously, it would have been great to see Noelvi Marte pinch hit for Henry Ramos or for Stuart Fairchild in the ninth. But I'm guessing David Bell just said, I don't want to put this guy in his first at-bat into that spot. I don't know. I'm kind of like on the fence, like, you're trying to win games, but I also like get what David Bell's doing. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
I don't know if I'm like overly dramatic about it either way, to be honest with you. I think that it's one of those situations where if it was me, I'd have stuck him in there and gave him a chance to have one of the most all-time greatest moments of his life. You know, I mean, if he gets out, you tell him, hey, so what, man? We'll get him tomorrow. No big deal. You know what I'm saying? And I also, when you add that on top of the fact that I think he was probably your best option, then I definitely would have done it. You know what I'm saying? But I get the other side of it. It's like, hey, this kid just came in. You weren't expecting to use him. You want to start him fresh tomorrow. Give him his first big league at bat when he's got a little bit of more comfortability, if you want to call it that. Maybe some time to sleep. He did say in the pregame interviews that he has literally not slept at all. So I get all that. But I mean, he ran. It ain't like that was no pressure. Stole a bag. Not like that was no pressure. So I don't know. I mean, he came into the game. It's not like he was down there sleeping in the clubhouse getting all the rest in the world. So I would have. I'm not going to kill David Bell one way or the other on that. I really don't. I don't think I care enough to. I don't think it's that big of a deal to. I know some people might make a big deal about it, but it just comes down to the fact that at some point somebody's got to make a play. Spencer Steer's had an opportunity tonight as well to get another big hit. Yeah, that big hit's coming, I hope, for Spencer Steer here soon. He's had opportunities. He's not come through yet. Let's face it. Spencer Steer had a couple opportunities. Stevenson had an opportunity. Henry Ramos had an opportunity. Stuart Fairchild had an opportunity. If any of those guys come through in the clutch, we're not talking about this. So I'm excited to watch Marte play, though.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at with. I think I probably would have thrown him in if it was my decision, but I'm not going to throw a chair or anything because it's very defensible with all the information that we have. But he'll be in there tomorrow, and I can't wait to see him. And then one point on Marte, since everyone splits continues to be like a huge conversation. Very encouraging thing on Noelvi Marte. He has like no splits. Last several years in the minors, he's been almost identical versus right-handed pitchers versus left-handed pitchers. So he's not like Spencer Steer and Matt McLean, where a lot of the values against lefties, he's going to hit both good. Now, I don't think he's going to hit both either side great right now, but he has pretty even splits. So it's not like against right-handed pitching, he's going to be significantly worse than against left-handed pitching.
Yeah. Retired USA vet came in here with some stats. Randy, I want you to listen to me. I know you're mad right now at me, and that's fine. Randy, I can talk to you like a man. You can talk to me like a man. It's all good here. Okay, listen. USA vet said Votto's hitting 206 on the season, 190 over his last 30 games. He's 0 for 7 in this series, 3 for his last 23 with 1 RBI. Okay, here's what I meant. I'm going to show you something. I don't want you to get mad at me, Randy. When I said that Nick Kirby could have walked, this is what I meant, okay? What I meant is that if he would have walked to the plate, Randy, and he literally just left the bat on the ground, he would have walked based off the fact that there was 4 straight balls. That's all I meant by that. I'm not trying to say that Joey Votto isn't a good hitter. I'm just saying that we can't sit here and say that that's our at the end of the game. That's what we're hanging our hat on, is that he walked in the 9th inning on 4 straight balls. That's all I'm saying. All right. I love Joey Votto. If I have to, I'll tell you what, I'll wear my damn shirt tomorrow. I'm going to wear my shirt tomorrow. Joey Votto shirt. All right. Reds MILB. What's next? We have a chance to win baseball games again. We play more, okay? I don't want to make this too overly negative. We had an opportunity tonight to do something really nice, which is win a baseball series against a really good team. We probably shouldn't have deserved to win this game, and we wouldn't have deserved to win the last game. But by God, we still can win it tomorrow. Right, Nick? But before we get to who, what, when, where, and why, we have some Reds MILB. Do we have any guys left in the minor leagues at this point?
Yeah, we're going to go in reverse order tonight because the other teams got done first. Tortugas, they won 11-5 tonight. Hector Rodriguez hit his 16th home run of the year, 434 feet. Victor Acosta, 2 for 3, double and a walk. And Cam Collier was 1 for 4. The Dayton Dragons, they won 7-1 over Fort Wayne. That's one of the teams they're actually in a playoff race with in the second half. Chase Petty, he was great once again. 4 innings, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Petty has a 2.09 ERA through 15 starts this season for Dayton. Edwin Arroyo stayed hot, 2 for 5 with a double. Sal Stewart was 0 for 4, did walk, but Cade Hunter, 3 for 5, hit his 14th home run of the year. That's one of the catchers. The other catcher, Matt Nelson, hit 2 home runs tonight. He's got 18 home runs on the season for the Dragons. Just went final. AAA Louisville lost 7-5 to Iowa. That's the Cubs affiliate. Connor Phillips really struggled again. He's had a lot of really, really, really good starts, and he's just had a couple starts here and there where he hasn't been able to make it out of the first or the second inning, usually because he hits a pitch count. Reds don't let their pitchers in the minor leagues throw more than 35 pitches in an inning, which I believe was the case tonight. But yeah, only an inning and 2/3, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 4 walks, 1 strikeout. Casey Legumina also struggled. Nick Senzel was 0 for 5. Jose Barrero was 0 for 5 as well for Louisville. And then Chattanooga in the bottom of the 8th, they are leading 6-2 over Birmingham in this game. Julian Aguilar pitched a pretty solid effort, 5 innings, 2 runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. As in this game, Reese Hines had a triple. He's 2 for 4 on the day. Blake Dunn is 1 for 5. That's your Reds MILB presented by Betfred Sportsbook. And then tomorrow, the return of Hunter Green. Definitely excited to see that. Green, he was okay in his AAA rehab starts. It just, I think he was just kind of working on stuff. So it's really hard for a pitcher like Green to know how much stock to put into that. Ryu has pitched really well against the Reds. He's got a career 3.23 ERA in 8 starts. Ryu is only his 4th start of the year coming back from Tommy John surgery. Those last 2 starts, he hasn't allowed a run over 9 innings. So the Reds will have their work cut out. But one positive, Joey Votto, left on left, has actually had a lot of success in his career against Ryu. He is 5 for 17. That's a 294 average, has a home run. That's a 941 OPS. So probably going to find a way in the lineup tomorrow, I would think. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. 140 tomorrow.
140. Thank God. It's not 640. It's the worst time in the world. Thankfully, we didn't have any balls that hit left field. Why can't we ever hit a ball to left field, though? You ever wondered that? Why can't we hit a line drive out there and get a nice little...
Well, the problem is that if the inning goes more than 10 minutes, it's gone.
That's a good point. Yeah, you gotta go 1, 2, 3, and then you gotta come up and you gotta start lasering balls to left field as quickly as possible.
Maybe we should start at 6:30. At least give you a chance to have the opponent face if you want to go that early.
Not a bad option. Not a bad idea. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Okay, I'm gonna take a breather. I understand that I was a little frustrated earlier. I also understand that maybe perhaps I'm being a little too sour on some of our guys. I'm gonna give again. I get the concept that people might sit here and be upset about the fact that I gave Joey Votto a little bit of a hard time, but at the same time, I hope we produce. That's all. I just want guys to produce. If they don't produce, it becomes frustrating. And trust me, he's not the only guy. He's not the only guy. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but again, I've said this time and time again. Spencer Steers had a chance to give us some huge, huge, huge moments, and it just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. So, we'll see. How you feeling, Nick? You think you're gonna win tomorrow? You feeling all right?
If you win tomorrow, it's a hell of a weekend.
I
Taking
agree.
2 or 3 from a playoff team, that would be great. As it stands right now, the Reds are still going to be tied for a playoff spot if the Dodgers currently leading 3-1 over the Marlins. So the Marlins are staring at a doubleheader sweep. So that would put the Reds and Cubs tied for that final playoff spot. Reds are still, Giants lost again. Someone in the chat pointed out, shout out to you. Reds are still only a half game behind the Giants for this. So they're within 2 spots here. And the Reds got 3 games against the Giants next week, the week after next. So those are going to be some huge games. So look, it's still all right in front of the Reds, which is, cool to see, but they got a really brutal 2 weeks. So just, it's going to be a grind these next 2 weeks. Playing 500 would be a feat. I think we have to try to remember that. I think it's important that we say that now. So, if they go 500, like, hey, actually, this is pretty good. We set some realistic expectations for what we think, kind of needs to happen. But this is really the treading water part of the season for the Reds.
No doubt. Steve Ross brings up an excellent point. I'm gonna end the show on it. I'm gonna end the show on what Steve Ross just told me. The truth is that when you think about this and you lay your head down at night, you just know. I know the next year, you're tired of hearing that. You've been hearing that for years if you're a Reds fan. Oh, next year, right, Nick? Hell, you mention anything about the future, Nick, and you get crushed. So I'll do it this time. I'll be the one that gets crushed. This team's ahead of schedule. If you think for a second that I don't still remember that, you'd be wrong. I'm going to lay my head down tonight knowing that when next year comes around and the Reds are in a big spot, there is a 0.000% chance that Henry Ramos, Tyler Stevenson, and Stuart Fairchild will hit back to back to back in a big moment. And when you go to bed tonight, you should feel good about it. You should feel good about the fact that that won't happen again. I'll see you tomorrow. Go Reds.